A maid took the billionaire's twin sons to the mall. Then the piano moment stunned everyone. A true story. She made herself a small cup of tea, sat by the kitchen window for exactly 10 minutes, and then got to work. That was her life. Quiet, steady, and largely invisible to the people whose house she kept running. She had been working for the Harrington family for 6 years. 6 years of ironing shirts, packing school bags, making sure the right fruit was in the right bowl. The house was enormous. 12 rooms, 3 floors, a garden that a separate team came to manage on Thursdays. There was money everywhere you looked, but warmth? That was harder to find. Mr. Harrington ran a global company. He traveled so often that sometimes Rosa would go an entire week without seeing him, even though she lived under the same roof. His wife was kind, but always busy. Always somewhere else. Always on a call or a flight. Their twin boys, 9-year-old Rayan and Ali, were the ones who filled the house with any real noise. Rayan was the loud one. He talked to everyone. The gardeners, the delivery drivers, Rosa, the neighbor's dog. Ali was different. He was the kind of boy who watched things. He sat at the edge of a conversation instead of jumping into it. He noticed things other people walked right past. It was Ali who used to sit near Rosa while she worked, not doing anything, just sitting. Sometimes he'd ask her small questions. Do you like this house? Or, what do you do when you're not here? She always answered honestly, because that's the kind of questions that deserve honest answers. I like parts of it, she told him once. And when I'm not here, I rest. That's enough for me. One Saturday morning in November, everything in the house shifted. Mr. Harrington had planned to take the boys somewhere. A fair, a museum, something like that. But a call came in from overseas. Business. His expression changed in that way it always did when business called. Everything else just fell away. He came to Rosa and said the boys needed to go to the mall. New shoes, back by noon. She nodded. That was all he said. He didn't say thank you. He didn't ask if she had plans. He walked back to his office and closed the door. Rosa didn't say anything about that. She never did. She just went upstairs, helped both boys get dressed, and by 9 o'clock the 3 of them were in the car. Rayan immediately started talking about the toy section. He had a list. Apparently he had been building this list in his head for weeks, and now he was ready to share every item on it. Rosa smiled and nodded. In the back seat, Ali stared out the window at the gray sky. The Meridian Mall was busy that morning. Families, couples, kids running ahead of their parents. Rosa held both boys close as they walked through the entrance. The warm air and the smell of baked goods from a nearby shop hit them all at once. Rayan immediately pointed at 3 different things. Ali kept walking, slowly, looking at everything. And then they reached the atrium. It was the center of the mall, a wide open space with a high glass ceiling that let in all the morning light. And right in the middle of it, sitting on a low platform, was a grand piano. Big, black, beautiful. A small sign on it said, "Play me. This piano belongs to everyone." A teenage boy had just finished playing something on it. A popular song, a bit clumsy but enthusiastic, and people around him clapped. He grinned, took a little bow, and walked off. The piano sat there for a moment, quiet, waiting. Ali stopped walking. Rosa almost bumped into him. She looked down. He was staring at the piano with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Not excitement exactly. Something more serious than that. "Who plays it?" he asked. "Anyone," Rosa said. "Anyone who wants to." He looked at her, then at the piano, then back at her. And then Rayan pulled at both their arms and said they were going to be late for the shoes, and the moment passed. They found the shoes. It took longer than expected because Rayan couldn't make up his mind and tried on 7 pairs. Ali sat on the small bench inside the shop and didn't say much. At one point, while Rayan was busy comparing 2 pairs of trainers, Ali looked at Rosa and asked quietly, "Did you ever have something you loved but then stopped doing?" Rosa looked at him. "Yes," she said. "Just that one word." "What was it?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Music. Piano. A long time ago, before you were born." Ali didn't ask why she stopped. Maybe he understood that some questions don't need to be pushed on. Instead, he just said, "You should play the one in the mall." Rosa shook her head and smiled. "That's not for me anymore." Ali looked at her for a long second, the way he always did when he was thinking something he wasn't ready to say yet. Then Rayan appeared holding both pairs of shoes, and the conversation ended. They paid, they walked out, and Rosa started steering them toward the exit. But Ali slowed down. Then he stopped. Then he changed direction. "This way," Rayan said, confused. "1 minute," Ali said, and he walked back toward the atrium. Rosa followed, a little unsure. The atrium was quieter now than before. A few people sat on benches nearby. The piano was empty. Ali walked straight to it, climbed onto the bench, and sat down like he had done this before. Rosa's first instinct was to pull him away, to apologize to whoever was watching, to say he wasn't going to do anything. But then Ali placed his small fingers on the keys, carefully, deliberately, and he began to play. It was Fur Elise. Just the opening part, the part most people recognize. He played it slowly, and it wasn't perfect. There were 1 or 2 notes that came out a little off, but it was real. He had learned it, actually sat down somewhere and learned it, note by note. A few people nearby slowed down. A woman with shopping bags stopped. A man looked up from his phone. Ali played the opening phrase once. Then he stopped, turned around on the bench, and looked directly at Rosa. "I learned that for you," he said, "so you'd remember." Rosa didn't move. Something happened in her chest. Something she didn't have a word for, not in any of the 3 languages she spoke. Then Rayan said, very quietly, "Just play, Rosa." She looked at both of them. Ali, with his serious eyes, Rayan for once not talking, just watching her with this calm, steady look. She walked to the bench. Ali scooted over to make room. She sat down. Her hands hovered over the keys for a moment. And then, without really deciding to, she played. Not Fur Elise. She played a Chopin nocturne, a piece she had learned when she was 19 years old, studying at a conservatory in her home city. A piece she had not played in more than 20 years. A piece that lived somewhere in her hands, even after her mind had tried to move on from it. The music moved through the atrium slowly at first, then fuller, then completely. People stopped walking. Not because someone told them to, they just stopped, the way you stop when something real is happening in front of you, and your feet understand it before your brain does. 10 people, then 20. Then a ring of strangers standing in a half circle around the piano, all of them quiet. Rosa didn't look up, her eyes were closed. She wasn't playing for them. She wasn't even playing for the boys. She was playing for the girl she used to be, who sat at a piano every evening after school and felt, for those few minutes, like the world made sense. An older woman near the back put her hand over her mouth. A little girl sat cross-legged on the floor to listen better. 2 men who had been arguing about something near a shop stopped mid-sentence and turned around. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The whole atrium just held its breath. When Rosa finished, there was a moment of complete silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, the kind that means something. And then people started to clap. Not politely. Genuinely. The kind of clapping that happens when people don't know what else to do with what they're feeling. Rosa opened her eyes. She looked a little surprised, like she had forgotten where she was. Ali put his hand on her arm and didn't say anything. That was enough. At the back of the crowd, standing near a shop entrance with a small bag in his hand, was Mr. Harrington. He had come to the mall on his own, a birthday gift for someone on his team, something he had decided to buy himself for once, instead of sending his assistant. He had heard the music from the upper floor and followed it down without thinking, the way music makes you do sometimes. He did not know his sons were here. He did not know Rosa played. He had never asked. She had worked in his home for 6 years, and he had never once asked about her life before that house, her interests, the things she carried quietly inside her. He stood there and watched his son Rayan, who was grinning at a stranger nearby and saying, "She works for us. She's honestly the best." He watched Ali, still sitting next to Rosa on the bench, shoulder to shoulder with her, completely unbothered by the crowd. He watched Rosa, who was just starting to smile, slowly, like someone remembering something they thought they'd lost for good. Mr. Harrington was not a man who cried. He would have told you that himself. But something was moving in him. A quiet, uncomfortable thing. The kind of feeling that comes when you realize you have been in the same house as something beautiful, and you never once turned around to look at it. He walked over when the crowd began to thin. He said hello to the boys. Rayan immediately launched into a full report of the morning. Ali just smiled. Then Mr. Harrington looked at Rosa. "I didn't know you could play," he said. Rosa met his eyes calmly. "You never asked, sir." There was a pause. He nodded slowly, not defensively. Just accepting it. "Would you tell me about it? On the drive home?" She considered him for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, I think I would." That evening, when Rosa came back to the house after putting the boys to bed, she found something in the sitting room. A piano. Upright, polished, real. And next to it, a folded piece of paper. She opened it. It said, "For whoever wants to play." No signature, but she knew. She stood there for a long time. Then she pulled out the small bench, sat down, and placed her hands on the keys. She didn't play for the house. She didn't play for Mr. Harrington, or the boys, or anyone else. She played because it was evening, and she was tired in a good way, and there was a piano in front of her, and that was enough. Outside, through the hall, Mr. Harrington sat in his study. For once, he didn't open his laptop. He just sat and listened. And down the hall, in their room, Rayan was already asleep. But Ali was still awake, lying quietly in the dark, listening to the music move through the house. He smiled to himself. He had known she would play again. He just needed her to remember. Some things in life don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with a big sign or a dramatic speech. They happen quietly, in the middle of an ordinary Saturday, in a busy mall, when a small boy sits down at a public piano and plays the only 6 notes he knows, and that turns out to be more than enough. Nobody wrote about it in the newspapers. No one filmed it properly. But the people who were standing in that atrium that morning, the woman who covered her mouth, the little girl who sat on the floor, the 2 men who forgot what they were arguing about, they carried it with them. You could tell, just by looking, that something had happened to them, something small and permanent. That's how it usually goes with the things that matter most. They don't make noise. They just stay. End